What's going on, guys? Raj here, back again with another video. This time it's more of a discussion one, a bit more of a less structured feel. And I wanted to talk about a topic that has been discussed. So I may not be adding anything new to the pool of thought here, but I just wanted to add my views on clone fragrance brands. Fragrances that are about imitating something that already exists. Dupes, brands who copy maybe sometimes more expensive brands and try to recreate their own version, or recreate designer fragrances for cheap. And you know what I'm talking about, those types of fragrances. And I just wanted to give you my thoughts on the whole industry of clone fragrance brands, what I think is good about them, what I dislike, and some of the, I guess you could say pros and cons. And I would also like you guys to take part in the discussion as well. I really would like to hear your thoughts on this. Whether you agree with me, whether you disagree with me, it's all good. We can all have a good sort of discussion without getting too heated and, triggered. But yeah, so clone fragrance brands. What is a clone fragrance brand? There are many types. And, there are some brands who will try and replicate exactly a current fragrance that exists, and they're very, very open about it. And they will say, this is our cheaper version of Bleu de Chanel, of Roger Parfum's Enigma. And they will very, very openly market that. For example, I've been approached on Instagram by a brand called Copycat Fragrances. I wasn't interested, and I'll tell you why. There's also brands, like Dua, Parfum Vintage, trying to recreate different batches of Aventus, and many other brands like that. Then you have some which, when you smell the fragrance, you think, okay, they haven't told me that this is a clone of Baccarat Rouge 540 by Maison Francis Kurkdjian, but it really smells like it. But it's their interpretation. Maybe they have been inspired, maybe they have seen the popularity of a fragrance out there, and they want a slice of that action. Then you've sometimes you'll get brands that will they will have their own original creations, but they'll also have their inspired fragrances collections. So I just want to get into the whole this. So where do I stand on it? My sort of overall view is that I am against it, but I'm not completely against it. There are some things where I think, yeah, actually the clone brand is certainly adding something of value. So what about fragrances that currently exist? Let's take Creed Aventus, let's take Baccarat Rouge 540 as two very, very popular, well-selling, but also expensive fragrances. What do I think about brands who will take that fragrance and say, I want to copy it as close as I can, maybe make some tweaks to the formulation and sell it for cheaper. But even that cheaper price may not be considered cheap by a lot of people's standards, but it costs less. Okay. So there are many people out there who will love these Aventuses and B540 fragrances, but they don't want to shell out. So I understand that. I understand that fragrance for a lot of people is just an accessory. It's not essential, and people like to smell good, but not everybody wants to spend that type of money. And yes, you can buy decants online and bring the cost down if you buy from certain people who will split larger bottles. I get that. So saving money is important. But the thing that I really, really dislike about these brands who are even the ones that are quite openly doing it, is that there's a lack of originality there, which I really, really dislike. And that really is at the heart of my argument, is that the world of perfumery, on the whole, involves an element of creativity. Now, not every brand will be the most creative, but in cases where there has been an original creation, a perfumer has spent, or a brand has spent many, many months trying to painstakingly put the fragrance together, Some brands will go out and do like market testing and all that kind of stuff. Other people are smaller who will just, just put together something they want to put together and package it and put it out into the world, and it's an original creation, and that is something that I really, really value myself. Whether the fragrance is good or not, it's kind of unimportant. If it's an original creation that somebody with their own mind, with their own skill, through maybe years of training, or maybe they just have a natural talent and they've put together a really nice fragrance, that should be commended, applauded, and something I think is worth buying into if you like the fragrance. So what I don't like is when certain brands come along, they will take that fragrance and they will run it through that it's got a complicated name, but some sort of machine. They'll spray it in the machine, pull the lever, and not literally pull a lever, but they will essentially try and capture what the molecules are kind of in there, make some tweaks. Maybe it might be too expensive, so they add some cheaper materials, and they will say, this is my inspired expression. So I'm obviously referring to Dua fragrances there, but not trying to like pick on them as such, but it's a good example. Where's the originality in that? Should we, as a consumer, be rewarding a lack of originality and essentially copying? Is copying a good thing? I don't think it is. Throughout art, there has been masters of their art, masters of their work, artists, painters, musicians, and some of them have just a natural God-given talent. Some of them had to train for a long time. And for somebody to come along and not even attempt to smell the fragrance and pick out notes and then put the fragrance together, which would be one hell of a skill if you could do that. And I would think that is something that should be sort of praised. But to actually put it into this machine that exists, some sort of I think it's called like GSM chromatography. I don't even know what the name is. That's cheating. That really is cheating for me, because you're putting it into essentially a little computer or whatever. The computer gives you the molecules, and that's cheating. Where is there's a lack of integrity there, and essentially is a form of it's a legal theft in my eyes. That's the way I see it. So I don't get behind brands who do that, because perfumery is all about as I said, the art of building something together. If you look at a brand like some YouTubers, for example, there's a fellow UK reviewer whose fragrances, I've tried a couple of them actually, and Peter from Fragrance View, he's put out a line, Centauri perfumes, and look at the amount of investment in terms of time, effort, money that he's put into it. Risking it all essentially to create a brand, and seems to be doing quite well, which I'm really pleased for him. But what if a brand came along and said, "Oh, I'm inspired by this. I don't know how to put this fragrance together. I can maybe pick up on a few notes, but I wouldn't know the first thing about making a decent fragrance on my own. So you're just gonna put it into this thing and then see what it spits out and then try and recreate it." I don't think we should be rewarding brands who do that. So I'm completely against that. However, there are some fragrances out there that cost so much, and if a brand comes along and says, there's a market for people who want this at a cheaper price, and it suddenly becomes more accessible, I kind of feel like, even though it's the same thing, my view kind of, and maybe I'm contradicting myself, but it changes slightly. Because if Dua comes along and recreates a Roger Parfum fragrance that costs £3,000 and it gives you a similar feel, well, maybe, some people don't care and they just want to smell great, whether it's been copied or not. Sometimes accessibility and opening things up to the market, to your audience, I guess is a good thing. And so there is something in there that makes me feel like, yeah, okay, I'll kind of accept that. One thing that I think clone brands can do really, really well is in the case of discontinued fragrances or vintage fragrances or fragrances that have been reformulated so much that it's like a shadow of its former self. And so a clone brand comes along and says, well, I want to recreate this fragrance from 10 years ago, which no longer exists. I'm going to try my best to do that. Okay, there's a lack of creativity and originality there, but you're giving somebody a product that is no longer available. And I can see the value in that. I can see the merit in that. What about brands that they try and okay, so where am I going with this? Okay, so there are brands who will copy other fragrances, but then try and do their own thing. So they'll have like inspired fragrances and an original collection. Okay, fair enough. I can see that, and I think if a part of your business is about cloning and the other part is about original creations, I'm down with that. I'm totally down with that. And sometimes when brands come out with fragrances that copy the really expensive ones and you smell it and you're like, wow, it's actually 90% close to the original. What is that? Who is the real winner here? I don't think it's a brand like Creed who sell Aventus for an astronomical price, because it makes you think, well, if a brand can sell it for half the price, a quarter of the price, and there are some, not 100% accurate, but there's some strong similarities to it, how is that possible? Are we being ripped off here? What are Creed doing? Charging so much. And a brand comes along and essentially rips it off, okay, which I don't like the idea of, but they're selling it for cheaper. So who's the winner? Well, Creed is not the winner, because people are, for me in my eyes, because it shows that their fragrances are, excessive in terms of price. And I'm not going to buy the inspired expression either, because that's just copying and there's no merit in that. So I'm not going to buy their fragrance either. So for me, I don't know if anybody really wins in that situation. The whole thing about art and creativity and skill is that it should be just left on its own, and a fragrance comes out and they create an amazing creation, and then what the goal of a brand or of perfumer should be is to create their own fragrance that is original, or as original as you can be, if originality is even possible nowadays, or maybe on the rare side, because everything has been almost done. Create your own thing, set your own path. Instead of following, maybe you be the trailblazer and other people follow you. But what about brands that come along and take an existing style, genre, a specific fragrance even? Let's take 4711, and other people have throughout the years and decades and centuries come out with their own Neroli type fragrances, but tweaked it, improved it, changed things slightly, have been maybe inspired by a classic, but they want to put their own take on it. I really support that, and I like that idea. And even if it is traditionally a clone brand, even if they add some tweaks and put in their own things and trial different types of formulae, and then put out their own version of it with some changes that may even be better than the original, yeah, I'm actually really into that. I definitely would support that. And you know what, the world of fragrances is so vast. People are often using the same ingredients where they buy them from the oil sellers or the main aroma chemical brands. So if everyone is using very, very similar ingredients, it may be hard to be original, So yeah, for me, I'm on the whole generally against these clone brands, and I don't want to buy their fragrances, promote them on this channel, because I disagree with the concept at its core. Now, let's just say that that's not to say that I don't want to try their creations, because I don't really want to be ignorant, because I would like to see what they can come out with. But at the same time, it puts me off, and I just think I would much rather go to a brand that tries and does their own thing, or tries to tweak certain things and improve them. And you know what? I prefer that. So there are many fragrances that are out there in the market that are affordable. So there are many great designer fragrances. Let them do their own thing and buy into that. That's what I feel I would like to do, rather than supporting copycat brands. But on YouTube, it seems that the copycat brands actually do quite well, and a lot of people do like that. And I think a lot of that might be driven by money and people wanting to save money, which, I I do understand, you know, and I can maybe concede a little bit and think that there is some value in that, because some of these niche brands are really expensive nowadays, and it's kind of getting out of hand, and it pisses a lot of people off. So I can see why there is a thriving market for the clone brands, but this idea of piggybacking off somebody else's success is lacks integrity, lacks creativity, and goes against everything that I think perfumery really should stand for, or should be at its core. So yeah, you know, just some thoughts I've had on my mind, and I wanted to get it off my chest, basically. So I'm really interested to hear what you guys think about this. If you support clone brands, I'm totally cool with that. I don't judge anyone. I don't think you should not do this or you should do this. I don't want to dictate to anyone, but I would like to hear your views on it. If you're completely against them, yeah, tell me what you think, you know, get something off your chest as well. So yeah, guys, thanks for watching. You know, if you like what you see on this channel, like and subscribe if you want to. I'm also on Instagram, so you can check me out there. And I'll see you on the next video. Take care.